Facing challenges and overcoming setbacks is part of doing business. Whether you have the expertise to survive them or not could mean the difference between success or failure. Welcome to We Are Women, featuring revealing conversations that provide invaluable insights into the success secrets of female masterminds. A must listen for every entrepreneurial woman. Now here's your host, Janeen Vosper.
Hi, it's Janeen Vosper here, and welcome to this episode of the We Are Women podcast. Today, I have Gemma Lumicisi. Now, Gemma is founder of Contently Driven. Now, you're going to be asking, what the heck does that mean? But I will explain that in a moment. She is a copywriter and she's a life coach, and she teaches you how to write copy that sounds like you and how you can be yourself truly in your business and in your life. Gemma's business mission is to help people be themselves in their business and, again, in their life. And she helps women stop hiding, become intentional, and create a life and business that they love. So there's lots of loving and lifing and businesses in there. Gemma, thank you. Welcome. I think we've got a theme happening already.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love always listening to when someone speaks about me. So thanks so much for that, Janine. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You are very, very most welcome. So a copywriter, I've heard so many times, other than salespeople, copywriters they earn more than any other employees as well. They're best copywriters because it's such an important factor. People don't realize it until they can read something written by a copywriter compared to what they've written themselves. And it sounds pretty good. How did you get into copywriting?
Absolutely. It's really funny you mentioned that because many moons ago, back when I was studying my first advertising degree, we won't say how long ago that was. No one actually knew what a copywriter was. So, I did all sorts of areas, and copywriting for me was the one that really resonated. And I would tell people, I'm a copywriter, I do this and that, but yeah, okay, so you're a lawyer? No. You do things like trademarks? No. So it's really interesting now, I guess, in the world of digital marketing and blogs and everything like that, just how big and important everyone knows what a copywriter does. So I guess how I fell into it when I was a child, my brother and we used to love ads, absolutely love them. And when we were allowed to watch television, we would sit in front of it, and instead of pausing at the ads, we would pause the TV show and tape the ads. So we still actually have hundreds of VCRs at home with television commercials on it.
I'm just going to say that's weird, but let's continue.
Right?
Yeah.
No, I'm a total weirdo. That's okay. But we just loved it. And when I was a child, like, one day I want to write them. And that's sort of what happened. So.
Excellent. I mean, I absolutely love the fact that you can identify as a child, this is what I want to do. It's a blessing it gives you a lot of focus then in, okay, how can I create that? What do I need to study? What learnings do I need to have? And how can I apply that? And how can I build that business when you know that? Because there's a lot of people out there that I work with, and you probably do as well, that don't know their own story. They don't know what they want to achieve and what direction they're going in. So to be so directed is really cool.
Oh, thank you. Absolutely. Yeah, I've always been like that, I guess. Just decided I want to do this, and no matter what, I just did it. So
I love it. I think that's awesome. But you particularly work with women and to help, and I know in the bio we've talked about helping them in business and in life. So blending the life coaching and the copywriting, it's obviously where you're doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So life coaching for me is more of a new thing, and it's sort of almost blending the both. So I started doing a lot of copywriting coaching. because I'd have many business owners come to me and say, Gemma, I'm struggling. I'd like to write some of my own, because there is so much copy to write, it's not just your website. It doesn't end there. So many business owners want to write their own, but they really struggle to do it. So I started actually coaching through that and helping them with tips and how to stop writer's block and give them, ideas and things to write. And then I really specifically started coaching on how to write to sound like you. And this to me is really important because with so much competition out there, it gives you that point of difference, right? If you have this really unique style that sounds like you, then that, you can distinguish your business over, someone else's that does the exact same thing as you. And yeah, from there, I really started to figure out and discover that so many women are also really afraid to be themselves. And this can really show in their copy. It can really show in their business, not sort of standing up and being visible and trying to sort of be someone else or be what they think they should be rather than, just being themselves. And then it sort of merged together in that way. I'm also a teacher in another past life, and English teacher. Who would have thought? And I love teaching and helping people in that way as well. So then I decided I've done a lot of coaching myself. I have my own coach and everything, and I understand, or I really value the importance of that. And then I put that two and two together and began a certification and blending both worlds into helping you in your business, helping you sound like you, and helping you actually really be you. Because if you are doing that in your business, you're doing it in your life as well.
Yes, yeah. And I know I talk to a lot of people who are, I'm going to come back to that story part in a moment, but who are hesitant to show their real selves and their real family and that on social media. And it's all, very cautiously edited. And we know most people are very cautiously edited. We don't want to cause confrontation or challenge people's thoughts. Sometimes we do. But it's, again, that shows the real you. I'm happy to put up a photo of me going for a walk and sweating and everything, and then photos of the grandkids, and then business information, so that, okay, this is the whole picture. It's not just one part. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that really, pulls together that story of who you are in all ways, of life and business, because you are both, you're sort of not one or the other. And it's interesting because I made this discovery about myself, that I really thought there were two me's, like two Gemmas. There was like Gemma, and then there was business Gemma. And I kept them so separate, but I had such a disconnect, and it took me a lot of, I guess, thought work and deep work into myself to figure out, why I was doing that and how it was really creating a block for me. And when I opened up and just let them both be together, everything changed. So
yeah, and that flows a lot easier as well. Yeah. So talking about your story, there has to be more to your story than, we watch TV ads, we videoed them. That's it. There is more, I'm sure. We want to know, Gemma, talking about stories.
Goodness me. Right. Well, I have a pretty good story, I think. I guess if we're speaking within this theme, helping people truly be themselves, is when I was a really young child, I really thought for so many years that there was something wrong with me, and that I was really different. I did say I was a weirdo, and totally am. But as a child, I lost half of my childhood sleep trying to answer questions that no one could give me the answers to. What happens when you die? Why are we here? And all of that. And I mean a really, really young child. And because no one could answer those questions, I just kept thinking and thinking. But what puzzled me at the time is that no one else my age was thinking about those things. So I've always been such a deep thinker. But on the flip side of that, I grew up in the shadow of a super intelligent brother. And, I'm not saying that because he's my brother. I mean, complete idyllic memory and like every physicist when he was 12, and, you name it.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah.
so intelligent.
Yeah, super, super, super duper intelligent. And being from, I guess the background it was just brother, just me. He was older, he was smarter, I was the girl. So no matter what, he was smarter, he was better, he was a boy, I was the girl, I was dumber, I was, so there was all of those things I went through. Later in school, for most of my high school, I was very much so bullied by a teacher, very deeply bullied by a teacher, not a peer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and no one would believe me. And
no, that's very hard for a
very
child
difficult.
to prove an adult in that authority position's doing that.
Yeah.
And it's very challenging for a child.
Yeah, I didn't understand at the time, but it was just everyone told me I was lying and all of this. And it really took until my final year of high school for my mother to stick up for me, because she sort of looked at, I guess, my past 17 years and she's like, well, you know what? Gemma's never actually lied about anything. She's never made up a story. She's never done this. And yeah, and then it all sort of came out that it was that. So I was severely bullied by her, telling me I was dumb and stupid and, all that stuff entwined with everything. So I guess growing up, I really thought that I wasn't intelligent, yet as such a young child, I was thinking so deeply and doing all of this. So I actually started chasing goals and creating goals. And like I said earlier, I make decisions like that, if this is what I want to do, that's what I want to do, but I found myself chasing the decisions for the wrong reasons. I was like, I'm going to do this because people say that I can't, everyone's like, you're too dumb to go to uni. So I'm like, oh, off I go. And well, if you're going to say that, then you know what? I'm going to do a second degree. And you know what? I'm going to do it. So it's just this.
Yeah, going, well, that was a good use of $100,000 and 12 years third degree.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, but and again, as you said, for somebody else is justifying someone else as opposed to you.
Yeah, so that, I guess that's my story there. And then that's why I had this disconnect. So because I sort of had all these beliefs in the back of my mind that I wasn't really intelligent, and what I do, isn't that special because, it's not what my brother does, and all of that. So how you just keep all those thoughts bubbling around in your head. That's where I just did this really big disconnect. I'm like, oh, well, I better sort of act this way, in business. And, and then it was just this massive, two Gemmas, which was so silly, because I thought that in order to have a successful business and do all of this and look professional, I couldn't be myself, because, well, like I said, myself's a little crazy, which is great. That's just me,
Yeah, and look, and that's the thing is people buy from people.
Yeah,
and that's the point that I think a lot of people miss when they're trying to be somebody else, is building those connections. Not everyone is going to like you personally.
Yeah,
but that's fine, because there's a lot of other people out there who will, and being able to recognize that they're the people you prefer to work with anyway, are the ones that appreciate you for your skill and ability, rather than trying to be, I just keep saying, be someone else that's not you.
absolutely. And unless, I guess you are showing up as the real you and putting the real you out there, you're not going to find more of those people who, are dying to work with you and that treasure the real you. Because once you find those clients or customers, whatever it may be, that, want to work with you and adore you, it's just priceless,
Yeah, I mean, they're my favourite people. They're the ones that pay me, and they are fun to be with, so I get paid to do something. I absolutely love working with people that I like. So it's a win-win on so many levels. This hiding behind the story, I find it fascinating. I ran a retreat in March. I know this is coming out in June and we're recording before that. But I ran a retreat in March, and part of that is with yoga and Chinese medicine, but it's digging down into people's stories and really pulling them out so that they can, because I teach speaking, so that they can speak the story and tell the story, and it becomes part of their sales message or their copy as well. But or they can stand on stage and deliver the story in a way that it wants to be, people want to hear it, and it's done there's all formulas and things, but it's that first case of, because there's maybe people that I talk to and I say, and you'd find this exactly the same when you're writing copy. Tell me your story, and they'll be, oh, I haven't got a story.
Right.
Yeah. And it's not until you start asking them questions. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, that was, that's a really important factor, that I and those stories then build up the connection with the clients or the prospects, because they go, they know they can help me because they understand my problem. They're speaking the same language.
Oh, absolutely, making my heart sing here. It's so true, and everyone does have a story, and so many people think, oh no, well, no, it's nothing special about me. But no, absolutely, anything you've experienced, a fear you've overcome, a goal you've achieved, so many things through their life, no matter how big or small, has created that story, and it absolutely is how people relate.
How do you pull a story out of someone? What when you're working with them, what's a method that you use to do that?
Really good question. No one's ever asked me that before. So there you go.
Well, it's different for everybody, isn't it? And some things really work with some people, and others, I'm sure you'd have to just keep digging and digging.
Absolutely. I start with really light questions. Tell me about when you were 7 years old. And that really, I find that really puzzles someone, because they go into this, oh, what? I don't know. I don't remember. And then I sort of dig into that a bit more. I'm like, okay, what grade were you in school? What was your favorite subject? And then they really start to think about things, and about, and then there was this one time where this thing happened. Like, great, what did you learn from that? But my most important question is why, or I'll say why, or if they tell me a story, they'll say, well, what did you learn from that? How did it make you feel? And once they really start to open up to sort of feelings and, putting together the way they were feeling at a time or things they were thinking about, and it just sparks like stories popping out from any time of their life, because that time that they just remembered of when they were 7, it sort of jumped them to, that thing they did when they were 22, that sparked from that. And it's so interesting to see when I ask people about stories, where their brain goes and what bits they're pulling out. But it's just digging deeper, if I feel as though they can't think anything, so just open-ended questions.
Yeah, and that's very successful in doing that, because it's and creating the imagery for that memory, but how does it make you feel is the important part. One thing is a memory, but it's the feelings that are around it, and the attachments that we have to those feelings creates the story of our life. And when you're when you're writing copy, then you can't be telling the 7-year-old story, but it's that feeling of then what they've done with their life to create the space they're in, and that's clever on your behalf. I know copywriters, I say copywriters are amazing when they can do what you're doing. Some people just don't dig down that deep. They don't look at that much, and they just write about the business, and it's whereas, again, we want to know about people.
Oh, absolutely. For sure. And don't be scared, be you, love you. We all love you. You're you. So, and it just, when you really open up to truly, the tapping into your story and your why and your experiences and what you've learned, everything really almost flows easier. That's what I found for me, you know, and you'll find that you post on social media easier. You can write a blog easier. You can write some emails easier because you're not trying to be something you're not.
Yeah, I worked with one of my clients as a poet and a writer, and she's put together a magazine now called Audacity, which is fabulous if you want to check it out. And she interviews some really creatives, a whole lot of different creatives. But that when we were working with her, I could just see this words flowing out of her, and everything was just her, and it all just hit the mark. You know, it was a really great way, and particularly with her poetry as well. And she'd include an image with the poetry or the writings, and that would bring that whole connection together. And it becomes such a powerful statement about who she is. Yeah. It's words are phenomenal. They just have so much power in them. And you with the writing, and me with, you know, helping people speak the words. And the judgment, the fear of judgment would hold so many people back, though, wouldn't it?
It's everything. So here's another discovery I made. I'm quite the Sherlock Holmes, I guess.
You ask questions, you make discoveries, Gemma.
Right. It's really interesting. So I guess when I discovered I was, you know, hiding behind my words, as I've called it, which of course was one of those very difficult things for me because I'm a writer. I was a writer who was hiding behind her words. And at the same time, it's because I didn't want to show myself. I didn't want to be myself, right? And I had no idea it was because of the fear of judgment. Because I've always been, I don't care what people think about me, and if that person doesn't like me, I don't care, which I do truly believe. I really don't. You know, if you like me, you do. If you don't, you don't. You know, don't care. There I am, back to being crazy. But it actually, deep inside me, it wasn't that true. So I'm a big reader, and I read a lot about evolution, and well, I read a lot about everything, but that's one thing that fascinates me, you know, like what we were here, you know, 60, 70, 80,000 years ago. I mean, what were those people like? There were different species of humans. What's going on? You know, obsessed. And I was reading about how we used to stay together, or like early Homo sapiens would stay together in these small packs, you know, of, oh goodness, has caught me off guard. I'm going to say about 100 to 150 people. It could be really wrong. Anything over that, it's where we start to break down. And that my brain just went everywhere. I'm like, oh my God, this is like, why? You know, we put something out on the internet, more than 150 people are going to see it. So you start to just panic because almost the entire world can click on your website and your link and read something about you and judge you for it, you know. And then what do people do? They sit endlessly scrolling on social media. People have 10,000, 1 million, 10 million followers, you know, that it really must sort of send you loopy. And I had no idea that the reason I wasn't being myself because I was fearing judgment. And then I went on to all sorts of other discoveries and, you know, findings. And then I didn't actually understand what fear really was. And this is my biggest disconnect. And this is where I really help female business owners here, or females in general, because in so many parts of my life, I'm super fearless. Right? I'm a big traveler. I've traveled 63 countries, was meant to be 70 last year. We all know why that didn't happen. You know, so again, another thing, when I was a child, I said one day I'm going to travel to 100 countries. So I'm almost there.
You'll have time.
Yeah, right. So I'm almost there. Well, I do plan to overtake that, but that's fine. You know, I'm like, but you know, I can go to a country, and most of them I traveled on my own, and I've lived there on my own, you know, and I sort of think, well, I can just sit on a bus in Costa Rica that I can't read where it's going, but I'll just like, oh yeah, let's just sit on it, see where it goes. That's fine. Not even fear that at all. Just like, yeah, let's take this on as an adventure, you know. But at the same time, I would write this awesome blog, like, no, I'm not going to publish that. And I didn't know the reason for that was fear.
And what's the difference? You obviously have done, a lot of work on that then. So what's the difference with that fear of judgment as opposed to fear of, stepping out into a possibly unsafe space, or just stepping out and not really caring about the consequences, but caring when it's that sense of judgment?
Absolutely. It's a really good question. For me, I guess, well, for me personally, it was because I didn't know the reason I didn't want to post that blog was something was scaring me. I didn't actually understand what my brain does with fear, but jumping on a bus in a country where I don't speak the language on my own, it's like, I discovered for me it's an awareness of fear, right? So I'm like, I'm putting myself in this situation where I don't know what's going to happen. So my brain's openly experiencing fear and saying, okay, so you should, keep your head up and, don't open your mouth and don't let people hear your accent and blend in and, look like you know where you're going, even though you don't pull your phone out to look at directions, so my brain's offering me all of these, I guess, ways to keep me alive, because that's what my human brain does. But at the same time, my brain's also offering me, don't post that blog post, because if you do, someone will judge you and you'll probably die from that, because that's what my brain's doing. It's reading that fear. So it's like, oh, no, if you do that, you're going to die. So my job is to keep you safe. So I didn't put that 2 and 2 together, and fear of judgment is a really big human fear. So as my brain's doing its thing, its job, which is to keep me alive as a human, it's saying, don't do that.
Yeah, absolutely. As you were saying that, I've written down ways to keep you safe. It's doing that exactly. And that, so the judgment is, other people's, even though you're going, oh no, it's okay, I don't care what other people think. It's that deep subconscious, because what you've created is something that's come from you, so that if someone judges, and this is the thing, I have people with difficulty with having sales conversations when it's their own business, as opposed to, and I have a lot of people that, I've worked with that have said, oh, I've been in telemarketing, but it's so different. I can't have that conversation. And I've really hung up on it when it comes to their own business, because the judgment is on them and their business, and not, working for somebody else. It's a very deep-seated fear in a lot of people.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. That sort of fear of judgment can pop up in so many places, but we're not, like you said, it's sitting in our subconscious. So we're not actively aware of that's what our brain's doing. It's so fascinating to me.
Getting on video is one thing that really holds a lot of people back, isn't it? I know. I just like to make sure my hair's right. It's a good hair day. That's the main. Oh, but I do so many of these recordings now. Once you've got a headset on, nobody can see the hair anyway. It's not a problem. It's what comes out. It's the valuable information that you share and offer out to the world. How can women truly be themselves? I mean, not just women, how can we be truly ourselves? What's your version of that? What does that mean to you?
It's a really good question. Don't think about it, right? If you have something on your mind and you want to say it, step through that fear. Just say it, because you're probably being you. If you love to wear leopard print like I do it. I was watching something, and this lady, she's an amazing entrepreneur in the USA, and she was talking about Oprah as her role model. And she said she was watching an interview Oprah did, and halfway through, Oprah kicked off her shoes. Right? I'm like, oh, this sounds like an interesting story. And she sort of stopped in the interview and said, well, my feet are uncomfortable, and if you want the best out of me, I'm taking them off. Right?
Yeah, it's having that level of confidence and belief. It's funny, I was running a training session the other day and my shoes were squeaking. So all across the carpet, they just kept squeaking. So I did exactly the same. I said, I'm taking my shoes off. This is ridiculous, because they were distracting me, but it certainly wasn't Oprah on TV. It was much smaller room and audience. But again, it was probably a similar thing. This is not comfortable. It was bothering me, and the squeaking.
Absolutely. And wasn't it so much better for you to, I guess, not so much stand up for yourself, but just honor what you're thinking in that time, like, I'm going into this, to speak and do this, and my shoes are squeaking, I'm uncomfortable, take them off and let's do this, rather than, I guess people, if I take shoes off, what will they say about me?
And that's part of being real, isn't it? That's very much about being real. And the amount of other times when you've been somewhere and you've had the most uncomfortable high heels on and you're the first one to take them off, and then everyone goes, oh, thank goodness. I'm glad somebody finally did that. And it gives other people permission then. And I think that's what makes a leader in a field where you can be true and authentic to yourself in situations, is that you can give other people permission by leading the way in a particular way.
Absolutely. I love that. That's fantastic. Yeah, it's really true. Yeah, but just be real, whatever feels right for you, whether it's taking off your shoes or wearing clothes you're comfortable in, or writing a blog with swear words in it, because that's probably how you speak, right? In context, or whatever it is, or if you have something to say it. Just be real. What feels right for you?
Yeah, and that's, I think, so when we're writing copy for somebody, we've got this story and we want something that's real. Then if you got a format or something a formula that you work to do that, or it just sort of comes out?
Yeah, absolutely. For writing a story, or
for writing a website. Let's talk about a website to start with. Because most people have an about page, which
my favorite thing to write.
Is it? So you have to go to the about page, whereas the front page is what keeps people on the website. Is that something that, how do we get our story and our authenticity and our realism on that front page? How do we tell that story from the front page?
It's an amazing question. I always like to say that the order of what goes down your homepage should replicate that of your navigation bar. Now, I am, for those of you who are listening, I am doing some hand demonstrations here. So
we are going to go on YouTube as well. So you.
Oh, we are.
Yeah, so it's video as well as.
Stop doing this then.
It's audio on the podcast channels and video on YouTube. So you're good. You're good. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Keep making the hand gestures. You're all good.
Wonderful. I do come from an Italian family, so it is something very natural to me. So your navigation bar at the top, if you've got, home, about, products, services, whatever it is, match the order so it has that natural flow, right? Okay. So yeah, and that's the most important thing. So the best thing is to add to how do you tell that story on your homepage is, you do have that introduction and above the fold, as we call it, which is that very first part you see on as soon as you open the homepage. That's what comes up. And then you will scroll down into a little bit of an intro / story, which goes straight into your about. So that's where you almost sort of back up your why, because your about is that second tab. So it should really make that flow. Now, the most important thing I always say right above the fold is to keep it very simple. So that's basically where you put in your point of difference or your USP. right? And it's really just to say straight up in, maximum 15 words at the absolute most is who you are, what you do, who you do it for.
Yeah,
And then,
in 15 words. And that's pretty good because I teach people to do a pitch in 20 seconds. So that's about what we'd be doing there as well. Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
It's almost that exact same thing. And then a straight call to action. And then when you scroll down, you add a little bit more to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll go straight into your about, which is your why, and keep it, fairly short and simple, but intriguing enough that when they click that button of, come this way to discover more, or find out more here, or here's the rest of my story, click here, whatever you're going to put in your call to action button, make it intriguing and spark that curiosity that they'll want to read your story. Because here's the next really important bit of information. Your about page is your second most visited website page of your website.
Really?
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Absolutely. Check your analytics, and that's really backing up everything that we're talking about today, right, Janeen? Because people will scroll through your homepage, but what do they want next? They want to know about you. They want your story.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about mine. It says what I have done and who I help, but it's probably missing a bit of me in there.
Mm-hmm.
A bit more of me in there. Absolutely. It's what I've, So that's an interesting point. I'm going to go and revisit that one. Okay.
Yeah, look, give it a once over. Why not? Because you should really does need to intertwine, you in your about page. But at the same time, you can't forget that you still want to intrigue your reader. You still want your website reader to, buy something off you, right? So at the same time, you're talking about you, but in a way that helps the reader, and that again is your story. This is what happened. This is what I learned. This is a solution I discovered. This is what I want to do for you now in that sort of way.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's cool. That's something that I think is definitely worthwhile having a look at, and it's not something for everyone to go and have a look at, but I'm definitely going to do that as well. You're going to go check out mine now, aren't you? And go, give me a rating.
I am. As soon as you said that, I'm like, I'll just pop right over there and have a look for you and let you know.
Absolutely. I think I appreciate that. That's good. And part of that is your brand voice. I've heard you use that term in your notes that you sent through to me, and it makes, and I've talked about branding to people quite a bit on the podcast over time, but a brand voice is something different than just a brand.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love it. I absolutely love brand voices. It is. It's more, it complements your overall branding, right? And what it is, because many people, there's brand voice, there's tone of voice and everything. The brand voice is more about, the overall you and the style, whereas your tone of voice gets really particular in the phrases you use and things you say. So I do have this fantastic brand voice process that I go through with people. And it goes through a series of questions, and we, really dig deep into them. And then I create a brand voice chart. Now, many small business owners will say, well, I don't need that. I'm not Nike or Adidas or Coca-Cola, And well, no, you're not. But like I said right at the start of this podcast, it's those small phrases, those small words that make you different. And it can be little small things that you say. So it is as simple as, going to your partner or your parents or your brother or your best friends and say, what's something I say a lot?
Mm-hmm.
It can be, and they'll say, oh, you say seriously all the time, And so pop that in, and then that way, if you're, just sporadically popping that in, let's say blogs, for example, it's already making you different in that way. Now, the idea of a brand voice is if someone were to steal your blog, right, and take it off your website, copy and paste, put their business name on top and the bottom, it wouldn't work. And
Mm.
that's because you've got your brand voice, your branding through that. If someone's able to steal that blog and claim it as their own, then you haven't really created that overall brand and brand voice for you. Sorry, I'm getting really excited.
No, and I'm thinking, because I've written a couple of books, and the people that have read them and do training with me have said they're just so easy to read. It's as if I'm listening to you speak.
Perfect.
Yeah, and it is because I'm going to write it simply just as I'm speaking it out. But yeah, it's all consistent then to who you are. It's not trying to be something different.
Yeah,
because I know other speaker trainers are very use a lot bigger words than I do. That's probably the easiest way to describe it. But their writings are very much like that. That's connected with them. And they'll write lots of words, whereas I'll write less words and get to the point a lot faster. So,
yeah, for sure. And
that's my opinion anyway. just dot pointer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And and you're infusing that with the way you speak, and that's, how to write to sound like you is really putting together the way you speak with words, and it's so interesting. So many of my clients will say to me, I don't know how to write like I speak. It's like, well, you do, because you speak it. They have this perception of, it's words, which means I need all of the grammar rules and I need to use super big words and I need to do, whatever. I need to know what a preposition is and, clauses of a sentence. No, you don't. No, absolutely not. We're not here to write a thesis. We're not here to write an academic paper. It's copy. Copy is to connect. And when you can't speak to the person, you're speaking to them with your words. And the way you speak, just write that way. If you want, a really good thing I've done with many people, I've even done it with myself earlier, write your blog. Instead of writing your blog, speak it, record it. We've all recording, just speak it, just write. And as you were writing, just speak, whatever's come to your head, just go speak it, record it and listen back to it and really hear the way that you speak, the things that you say. And if you want, put that in a blog post word for word.
Yeah, and there's software that will do that for you from your spoken word anyway. So yeah, that makes it a lot easier to do that. Yeah, I think it's all so important. But just wrapping up, and I always like to grab 3 big takeaways from the conversation. And I say this every time. I say this every time. It's really ridiculous when you're saying this every time. It's the same statement, but it's if you get what I mean.
I do.
Repeating that. It's the time goes really fast. We get through to the end of the podcast and go, now I need 3 points that we can grab and take away and wrap up. So Gemma, tell me some points that we're going to remember at the end of the podcast. I just had a bit of a crazy moment then. I think you've done that to me.
Glad to help.
That's good. That's all good. I'm going to a 5-year-old's birthday party this afternoon with my granddaughter, so it will be fun. We'll be in a fun mood, which is awesome.
Absolutely. I guess be yourself. As much as you can. So my number one takeaway is be yourself. Do it through your words. Don't be afraid to post things on social media, because once you really let go and be yourself in your business, it changes everything. Number 2 is, I guess, fear of judgment. Really understand if that's something that's happening to you, and really dig deep into what your brain is doing there, and just feel that fear and push forward if you can, and create a brand voice, because little words and bits and pieces that you can put throughout your copy consistently, bits on websites, blogs, emails, whatever. It's your point of difference, and that's what's going to make your business stand out, and that's what's going to help you connect your humans.
Yeah, I love the idea of that brand voice. It's just, even when I'm speaking, I'll use, and I can't think of the term at the moment, it's dropped down my head, but you shorten the words I am into I'm. Or whereas when you start putting it in Word documents, the word goes, no, I don't like that. I want you to write I am. And I had one of the editors that was very fussy on that as well. So I've split half of them. Half of them are I can't think of what they type. Yeah, I did, because I could see the point, because not everyone is me reading it. So that was a point as well, but it still had to come from my voice when I was telling stories throughout it. So when there was an anecdote, I kept it in how I would speak. But if it was technical information or content, changed it up a little bit. So that was a little bit of a compromise to the readers as well as for me.
Yeah, that's super interesting, because I would say to you, nope, always use contractions.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Contractions. That was the word I was trying to think.
Oh, yes, that's good.
Yeah, I was going to have the wrong word then. It could have been interesting, but yes, doing that. Beautiful.
Oh, it's okay.
How can people get in touch with you, Gemma?
Yes, absolutely, of course. Like you said, right way back when, at the beginning of the podcast, my business is Contently Driven. And you can find me contentlydriven.com, at Contently Driven, Instagram and Facebook. I'm floating around there all the time. And under my name, Gemma Lumicisi, on LinkedIn. So yeah, come find me. Say hi.
And you have a podcast as well, if anyone wants to.
Yes, I do. Our podcast is called Work Wife Wine Time. It's celebrating all women in business, and with the overrunning theme of collaboration over competition. So yeah, check that out.
That sounds really interesting, because that's an important factor, and that's a whole nother conversation. To be able to work with other women, and I do that with a particular group of women where we collaborate on a whole lot of issues. And I run mastermind groups, which is that type of thing as well. You're collaborating with ideas and not competing with the people in the room. It's just a sharing of ideas. Thank you, Gemma. That's a heap of great information that I'm sure listeners are going to be able to take away and apply, and different components of that, and just if you can work around what may be causing that fear and that judgment, and delving deep into that. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janeen.
So that's another episode of the We Are Women podcast. I am Janeen Vosper, your host. Remember that you can book a strategy session with me by going to janeenvosper.com, and just we can have a conversation. It doesn't really matter whether it's something, if I can help you with it, fantastic. If I can't, I know a lot of people who talking about collaboration who will be able to assist you with ways to help you have a successful business and to have a wonderful life. Remember to leave a 5-star review, and I look forward to you joining me next time on the We Are Women podcast. Bye for now.
So, do you feel stuck in a rut in business? Visit speechperfect.com.au and download Janeen's free ebook to avoid the 5 most common stumbling blocks women face in business. It's jam-packed full of tips to overcome the barriers that could be holding you back from the success that you dream your business will be. We would love you to leave a review of today's episode and share this podcast with other women in need of entrepreneurial inspiration. Subscribe to the next episode now and join the We Are Women community.